Hello there, fabulous people. Jen here from Science to Sell Tarot. And I wanted to jump on in response to a live chat I recently partook in. And a lot of people were talking about mental health, the stigma associated with it, and being judged and feeling judged by other people because of it. And yes, sadly, as much as we've reduced stigma to a point, there's still a huge amount out there. And I really wanted to jump on because there was so much talk about it in this live chat that I was part of. And one of my comments to that was, you know, being a psychologist, people assume that we have all our shit together, okay? And that's not the case. We're still human and we are still subject to everything that goes on emotionally, psychologically, physically. We are not immune to that just because we are in the mental health field, okay? And in fact, so many people who go into work in the field of mental health do so either because they've gone through some significant shit themselves or because they have family members or friends who have gone through significant stuff as well. But there just seemed to be so much sadness almost in this discussion around people feeling judged because they have mental health concerns. So whether that's depression, anxiety, bipolar, like the list goes on and on and on. Be here all day if we listed them all. And I need to be very careful about how much I say. I did say I would do this, but I want to be very careful not to blur the lines too much. I set this channel up as my outlet, as my second home, my second life outside of that other life of being a psychologist and a spiritual transformation coach. Because this is my platform of doing something I'm passionate about and I love, which is the tarot. And I just wanted a way to, you know, be able to share that, even if nobody ever watches it. That was important to me. And I also need to be careful because there are rules and regulations around being a psychologist. So I'm not going to go deep into things. But there are, you know, some certain things I thought were important to touch on. The first one is, yes, people, this is so common, you know, and unfortunately through this live stream that I was part of and out there in the greater world, people are still feeling isolated and almost shocked to hear how common having a mental health condition is. Now, there are varying levels to this, some that we would consider diagnosable, so when you meet certain criteria, and below that, you know, most people will experience at least some level of depression, anxiety, and like memory impairments and all sorts of other symptoms that go along with these things. It is so common. And one of the big things that has, you know, been brought up in a few different live streams I've been a part of in YouTube land is this whole idea of, you know, being kind because you actually never know what people are going through, you know, and that is so true. And in my job, you know, there are often, I'm very open and I'm very upfront and I'm very honest with my clients, whether that's my psychology clients or whether that's my coaching clients that I work with, within reason. I mean, we have limitations around that as well. But I'm as upfront and honest as I can be, so that people do know that it is really common, that just because I'm in the position I'm in, it doesn't mean I don't have shit going on. It doesn't mean I haven't gone through shit, and it doesn't mean I'm not going through current shit, and it doesn't mean I'm not experiencing diagnosable psychological shit, okay? So that's a lot of shit in there. But, there's still this idea that when people are suffering from some kind of mental health concern, that they feel so alone and so isolated, and that they're so unaware that, this stretches so far beyond them. If you were to walk into a room of 20 people, the majority of those people will have or are currently experiencing some kind of mental health concern. And diagnosably so. So what I mean by that is to the point where it is severe enough to be classed as an actual diagnosis, okay? So above and beyond the normal sadness or the normal overwhelm or anxiety that we all experience at times. So wherever you go, I guarantee you there are multiple people in your space that are currently or have gone through some kind of mental health concern. And sadly, we still feel so isolated because of it. So that's the first thing I really wanted to get across. Now, because it is a tarot channel, there's one thing I wanted to bring up in connection to tarot and mental health, any kind of spiritual practice and mental health. And that is that, so many of us use the tarot as a really important tool in our lives, whether that's every day or on a weekly basis, or for some people it might just be here and there when they get time to do it. And oftentimes, and I've experienced it in my own circle of family and friends, where people are going through really serious mental health concerns, who will go and seek out a tarot reader, who will go and seek out a psychic medium as their form of therapy, okay? Now, we all talk about tarot as being a tool. It's a tool, it's a great tool, it's an awesome tool, but, and I'm only bringing this up because I want to relate it somehow to the fact that this is a tarot channel. Going to see a psychic medium, going to see a tarot reader has its place, but it is not a substitute for therapy or connection to close friends or family who understand. And it is one aspect that can help us, but it can also be used by some people as a substitute. And I'm talking very much from personal experience of what I have seen around me in my own circle. Now, I have gone in times of turmoil and stress and overwhelm, and in periods of, chronic anxiety or borderlining on that depression and not kind of knowing what direction to go in. I have sought out people I know very well who read the tarot, others who are psychic mediums, as an additional tool to help support me, okay? But it is not a substitute, right? Now, I am guilty of this as well. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you will know that these last couple of months have been complete shit when it comes to, my family life with myself and my daughter. And to cope with that, I have relied a lot on my tarot decks, and to my detriment, okay? To my detriment, and I 100% admit that, because instead of facing what needs to be faced, instead of dealing with it, instead of reaching out, I've kind of gone inwards into my own shell, and it's a bad habit I have. When things get too much, too emotional, all of that, I retreat into myself. And I know that that's not a healthy thing, given my job role, okay? And I'm more than well aware that I do it. So it's about being aware of how much you're relying on these certain other tools. And that doesn't just relate to tarot either, okay? It can even be, we know exercise is hugely important for all aspects of our psychological well-being and emotional well-being. But if somebody exercises multiple times a day for hours at a time, that's basically their way of distracting from what's going on. It goes beyond the helpful exercise and it actually becomes a negative thing. So I wanted to bring that up as a way of talking about that we need to have balance in everything that we do. And I did want to bring that up. And I wanted to bring it up more because it's something I've gone through recently where I have relied too much on going to my decks. I have relied too much on binge watching stuff from the tarot community as a way of tuning out what's going on in my life. And I know that that's not a healthy thing to do. So I definitely wanted to reiterate that as well, because these things are helpful and they're useful, but they are no substitute, okay? Now, this brings me on to my next point that I want to make. And like I said, I'm trying to keep this very surface level. So I'm not blurring too many lines between my one life as a psychologist and my doing this for fun. But I do think it's important, but it is very surface level. I have my other Facebook groups where I go into all this in more detail, but and that's what I use that platform for. This platform is generally not as serious as what I'm talking about now, but still I'm keeping it very surface level. So the next thing I wanted to say is it's okay to get help. You know, unfortunately, because of the stigma that gets put out there and the people who aren't getting help when they need it, it's usually because of the stigma that's coming from the closest people to them, okay? Like, no, you shouldn't go see a counselor or a psychologist because that's a sign of weakness. And, oh, you don't need that, you just need to change this about yourself. Oh, why can't you just get over it? Go and get help. If you had a freaking broken leg, you wouldn't just sit at home and hope that it healed itself, right? You'd go to the doctor, you'd have your x-rays, you'd end up at the hospital, you'd be put in a cast. If you had to, you'd have the surgery to fix it, okay? And you wouldn't think twice about getting help for that broken leg. But unfortunately, because there is still this idea that seeking out professional help is a negative thing, so many people miss out on a beautiful opportunity to actually improve their life. If you left that broken leg unattended, the chances are it is going to impact the way you move and walk and function for the rest of your life. And it is exactly the same when it comes to our mental health and getting help for it. And that brings up another topic that was raised in one of the lives, and it was someone saying, I often wonder if my therapist has a therapist. Well, I can't speak for all therapists out there, whether that's psychologists, counsellors, social workers, but to a point, every good therapist in a form, yes, has a support network, all right? So for many, that does mean having a psychologist, a counsellor, a social worker that they go to on in that professional sense of getting that real one-on-one help. Alternative to that, we all have colleagues that we rely on, that we trust, that we depend on, who we go to when shit gets out of hand, basically. So if it's something relating to our work that maybe has triggered us from things we've gone through in our past, yes, we seek supervision for that. That's kind of our professional term for it, is to get supervision for that. And it's part of what we actually have to do. And we will debrief with people about things. So because we know the tools and the tricks and the strategies to use, but again, if you're the one going through it, even if you know the tools and the tricks and the strategies and what you need to be doing and should be doing, sometimes you need to hear it from an external source for it to make any actual sense to you, and just to reiterate it to yourself. And it can be anything from, I remember when probably about 5 years ago, when I worked as a psychologist in the prisons. And I was in a very bad car accident at the age of 15 before I even drove. I wasn't the driver, I was the passenger, so I wasn't driving illegally. And I had some very severe physical injuries from that. I had some very awful psychological wounds that came after that. And I didn't drive for years. I didn't get my license at the age everyone is usually excited to go and get their license. I was terrified. There was only certain people I would get in the car with. And it did have a big impact. Now, years and years on, I'm driving, I was fine, everything was okay. But when I was working in the prison system and I was sitting down with someone who was in there and they were telling me their story. Now, this person was a lovely person, okay? They were lovely, really lovely. And they were telling me their story of the reason they were in there is because, I'm not going to give too many details, but basically the vehicle that they were driving, ABC happened, and they ended up swerving into oncoming traffic and killed a young person because of that. Now that was a trigger for me, okay? I had to drive a fair distance home from work that afternoon and all that anxiety had come up in me again. And it was days of feeling that anxiety of, oh shit, I could be on the road. And I know logically I can be on the road at any time and something bad can happen. But thankfully it's not at the forefront of my mind every time I am on the road. But this was in my face. This brought up all that kind of trauma from the past and the reality that I could just be driving home from work today and a certain type of vehicle does A, B, and C, swerves, and I'm dead and gone. And can happen to any of my family members. So it was a huge trigger for me, all right? And in situations like that, yes, we will seek out because that impacts not only me personally, but it impacts my ability to be able to do my job properly, okay? It's the same as when I have sat down with clients who will openly admit that they have been caught for drink driving. I have to be very, very careful of knowing my own triggers with that, because it is not my job to judge that person, and I'm not judging that person, but I have to be careful that I don't judge that person, because then it affects the therapy that's going to occur. I'm not going to be any help for them. They don't need somebody judgmental in their life, and that's not my job role. Okay, I'm there to help them, not bloody judge them. They have enough of that shit in their outside life. So yes, we have to be very aware of our triggers, and yes, when we get triggered to a point where it affects us on a personal and professional level, yes, we get help for it. And if it's stuff going on in our personal life, in our personal world, yes, we will seek out other therapists, or whether that's a psychologist, a counsellor, a social worker, whatever the preference is. Have I done that before? Yes, and I'm okay to admit that, all right? And it's important that we practice what we bloody well preach, okay? And that is something I live by. So when I sit here and I say this stuff to you guys from a place of love, please know that it's because I have done this and I have put it in place, and I do practice what I preach. I've done many programs. I'm about to launch another program in my Facebook group, and if you want to join that, and this isn't a promo, but if you want to join that and get more of the psychological and the spiritual and the quantum physics side all combined, not too hard to remember based on my channel name, it's the Science to Soul Transformation Tribe. And very soon I'm going to launch another program in that, a program I have run before, one of the most life-changing programs I've run, but I don't put anyone through any strategy or get people to do anything that I have not done myself to know that it works and it's helpful, okay? We're not always the best at practicing what we preach in the moment, But, you know, I very much believe that I don't come just from a textbook, all right, when I talk to people. And I do practice what I preach. I do use my own strategies that I teach to other people. Sometimes I fall off the bandwagon with them, absolutely, because we all do, all right? And that then leads into this next thing I wanted to talk about. When it comes to mental health and dealing with mental health, living with it day by day, coping with it, and dealing with the judgment that we get from other people, what I want you to know is that unfortunately there is no quick fix for anxiety. There's no quick fix for depression. Even if you're using medication, which can be hugely effective, if you really want to benefit, you have to be doing the work every day. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to do that. If you are someone who suffers from depression, something, you know, a regular occurrence that comes up all the time is I might spend multiple sessions with a psychology client, not so much a spiritual coaching client, but with a psychology client, just getting them to a place where they can motivate themselves to shower, okay? Because to someone who is so deeply depressed, just the act of having to get the clothes out of the drawer, get the towel ready, turn the shower on, get in the shower, can be like climbing a freaking ginormous mountain, all right? And people don't understand that, okay? People don't get that. And they just think these people are being lazy, okay? And this is something that very much came up in this live chat of people just not understanding, right? So find people who do understand, first of all, like professional help, if that's what's required. If you have nobody around you who can help and support you with this day-to-day basic stuff, find a professional who will and who gets it, all right? So, you know, when it comes to things like that, it's starting at the basics, all right? It's not thinking that you're going to go out and conquer the frickin' world because you started medication or you're seeing a professional. And can I tell you, this stuff is a day-to-day process, all right? It never stops. That doesn't mean it's always as difficult to motivate yourself to do things, but it's an ongoing thing. If you want to gain, first of all, and then keep good psychological and emotional well-being, you have to do certain things every day, all right? It is no different to if you're going to go and run a marathon. You don't just wake up the morning of the marathon, go out there and you can do it, all right? You have to train, you have to practice, you have to work your way up. You have to pace yourself day by day, getting better and better each day, practicing every single day to run that bit further, to push yourself that bit harder. And it is the exact same thing with our psychological, mental, emotional well-being, okay? It is a day-to-day thing and there is no quick fix. And it is about finding the little things that are going to help you. Now, I do this all the time. I've gone through many periods on a 6 to 12 monthly basis where things seem to fall apart again, and it's like, all right, I need to change it up. What has been working, what's not working, what do I need to add into the daily routine to help me, okay? It doesn't end, and unfortunately people get scared by that, and I'm not trying to say this to scare people. It's not looking at it from the perspective of, oh shit, I've been diagnosed with depression or I've been diagnosed with anxiety and now I'm going to suffer from this for the rest of my life. It's not like that, but it's every day I have to do certain things that are going to keep me on that path to getting better and better and better. You know, now I did go through, back when I was actually studying at university, debilitating anxiety, to the point where I didn't know what it was. I thought I was physically ill. I went through every test under the sun with my doctors and hospitals. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't eat. huge physical symptoms. And it was anxiety and debilitating, all right? Now, I am not at that point anymore. And there was a huge kind of 12-month period of working to really get through the really debilitating aspects of that. And we're now years on and I'm not at that point anymore, but I still know that I have a predisposition to get anxious over certain things. And I know the things I need to be doing every day to maintain that. And it's simple things, but they're things that still take effort and they take time, which is people's biggest issue when it comes to helping themselves. So it's things like making sure I meditate. It's things like making sure I'm eating right. I'm someone who I know is very reactive to food. I love chocolate, but the second I eat it, I'm ready to fall asleep. I feel shit, I feel awful. So it doesn't mean I don't eat chocolate. It means if I'm going to eat it, I eat it at night before I go to bed. So it's changing certain things. It's being aware of my body and its reactions. The one thing I can't attest to is I'm not very good at maintaining exercise, but I know that that's something I have to work on because I know the importance of that. And I have to work on getting that to a point where it's regular and consistent. So even though once you get over some of the bigger symptoms that come with an actual mental health diagnosis, even though the maintenance part are more simplistic things, it still takes effort, because it takes a lot of effort in our busy lives to make time to meditate daily, okay, to make time to prepare the right foods, to make time to exercise, to make time, and an important part for me is sitting down doing the tarot each day, because that's like an outlet for me. That's something I love, that's something I enjoy. But again, you still have to find time to put these things in. Making these videos is something I love. Unfortunately, in my Facebook group, I haven't been in there for about a month because I haven't been well. But doing that takes time and organisation and preparation. And it is an ongoing thing. So the biggest thing I want people to know from that is that it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you because you have to do things to maintain where you are at. Because guess what? Everybody out there has things that they are doing every single day that keeps their mental health in check. Yes, even people who have never had a diagnosis, even the people who you would consider to be ignorant and arrogant of mental health concerns are doing things every day to maintain their mental health. They just don't realize what they're doing. For anyone who has had or has a mental health diagnosis, we are just aware that we're doing these things. We are aware that we have to be doing these things to help us. So even though it means that you might be doing this every single day for the rest of your life, that's a good thing. That's just good daily functioning to help you overall in your well-being all round, physical, psychological, emotional, because our mental health very much affects our physical well-being too. But that's a whole nother topic that we're not going to go into. So you have to start small, okay? You have to start with the basics and build up from there. If you can't do it alone, and if you've got someone around you, very close to you, family, friend, who can help you get these basics into some kind of pattern and habit and routine, then rely on them, ask them to help you, okay? But if you don't have that, it is not a bad thing to see a psychologist, a counsellor, a social worker. At the very least, talking to your GP, if your GP is someone who understands mental health. Some GPs don't. Others are fantastic with it, okay? And one big thing I want to reiterate, something that turns people off seeking professional help is because they have had a bad experience in the past. When I have a client sit down with me, if it's a psychology client, the first words that come out of my mouth are, this first session is for you to decide if I am the right person for you to work with. Because I want that person to know that if they don't gel with me, which is the biggest factor in having a good therapist, if they don't gel with me, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them, and it doesn't mean they're a lost cause for getting help. It just means I'm not the right person for them, and there will be somebody else out there for them, okay? I am not offended by that. I'm not offended if somebody doesn't like my style of therapy. It doesn't bother me. It's something that I very quickly came to terms with. So if you go and see someone professionally and you end up being really frustrated, you feel like you haven't been listened to, acknowledged, I do recommend, if you're someone who's really standoffish about going to therapy, that you try that person a good 2 to 3 times first. But if you feel really offended by what this person said to you, and I've heard some terrible stories, you don't have to go back. Just because that person is in the professional seat, they are no better than you are, okay? I am no better than any single client who sits down in front of me, all right? It's the same with doctors. There are doctors out there who are fabulous, and there are doctors out there who are not so fabulous, but none of them are better than you, the patient who sits down with the doctor, okay? And that is a really big thing that often puts people off getting the support and the help that they need, is having a bad experience, okay? And unfortunately with doctors, it kind of goes two ways. Some people stay with the doctor and just let themselves be treated like crap, or walk away feeling awful every time and think that they can't make a decision to change doctors. And that's a really unfortunate thing. But alternatively, we all know that we need to have a medical doctor in our life at some point or another, some less than others. So we will seek out doctors. You know, I remember when I moved to a different location for a period of time, I probably saw about 5 doctors before I found the one fantastic, fabulous doctor who I had there, and I had no issue doing that. So it is the exact same thing when it comes to getting professional help, all right? If you do not like the person, it is not a reflection of you, and it does not mean that you are going to hate everybody out there who is in that professional role. And at no point should any professional in any job role in any of life make you feel like you are lesser because you're not in their position, okay? Nobody is any better than anybody else, all right? So I really want people to feel comforted in knowing that it's okay if you don't gel with the therapist. Find one that you do gel with. I would have people who would hate the fact that I swear, that I'm very upfront. I'm very kind and compassionate, but I also say things as they are once I get to know people and their personality and what they're like and if they can take it. There will be people out there who would freaking hate my style, and that's okay, all right? That is fine. So please know that you are not stuck in and locked into that professional just because you've gone there once or twice. Okay, you can move on at any point and find someone who you resonate with better, because I can guarantee you, above and beyond any strategy that you are given, above and beyond the type of therapy that you're doing with this person, the number one thing is to have that good rapport, that good relationship with the professional that you are seeing, all right? That in itself will make you feel so much more comfortable about where you're at with your psychological health, okay, and your emotional well-being. So please seek out professional help if you need to. Don't be trapped into it just because you don't like the person and feel like you have to go there because they're in that professional seat. But get the help if you need to. Yes, the stigma still exists. But you're not going to help yourself if you sit at home because you're buying into that stigma that is being brought onto you, all right? And the most important thing is that you get the help you need, not what other people around you are saying. And that kind of brings me to one of my last points. Sorry. And this is about people feeling judged. And this was another big thing that came up in the live stream I was a part of that made me want to do this upload. People feeling judged by other people around them. Now, whether that is on more of that sort of sneaky kind of level with those little sly comments people are making, or whether it's outright judgment because people are going through certain, concerns that are affecting their mental health. The biggest thing I want to say about this is if people are judging you, it is because they are the one with the issue, okay? It's either because they are scared and do not understand something, or it is because they have actually experienced something like this and judge themselves for it without even realizing it. So subconsciously, I'm not saying these people do it deliberately, but some people will have to make other people feel shit about themselves to boost their own self-esteem, to boost their own confidence, right? It's, and this is definitely not, I don't want to go into all this stuff that's been going around in tarot land about the community and friendships and cliques, but there was a video I watched in particular that something was said that I found hugely offensive. It was small, and I don't know how many other people would have picked up on it, but I found it really offensive. It's something I've actually heard in my practice as well. And and it was basically that notion I'm trying to talk about of somebody putting somebody or a type of people down as a way of justifying why they are the way they are, okay? That's about having a lack of confidence in yourself, because people may disagree with me on this one, but I'm sorry. If you are happy with who you are, if you are content with the person you are inside and out, you do not need to judge other people, okay? Happy, content people, confident people do not need to judge other people. Now, I'm not saying that everyone who's low in self-esteem, low in confidence, all of that, go and judge. They don't. But I'm talking about if you don't have an issue with how you look on a physical level, you don't need to attack other people for how they look. If you're content and happy, genuinely so, okay? Big difference in putting up an appearance and going, oh, I look really good. Because you can have some of the most aesthetically pleasing people in the world who will attack other people for their looks. And I can assure you that what lies beneath that is, even though to the rest of the world they might appear really physically beautiful, there is a part of them that is lacking self-esteem in that area. They need to attack, they need to judge, they need to say things to other people to make them feel better about themselves, okay? And when I hear these kinds of comments, when I've watched certain videos, I have no interest in responding to them. And it's the same as in like my personal life and in my professional life, okay? Is if I'm hearing people judging and attacking, whether that's me or whether that's other people, it's being able to step back from that. And I highly recommend you practice this on a daily basis. Being able to step back from that and realize that that issue is not yours. It's not yours to own. Even if someone is attacking you, it is not your issue to own. That issue needs to stay with that person, and you need to, imagine taking that shit they've just put on you and handing it straight back, going, this is your issue, not mine, and I am not going to keep it, all right? Yes, it happens in professional communities. There is a Facebook group I am a part of, in my other professional life, that I'm still in it, but I am not subscribed to having it on my news feed because so much of it is so bloody negative, all right? Negative and judgmental. And I don't need to see that. I need to be part of this group for other reasons, but I don't want to hear that shit. That's not my shit to take on board. That is the issue of the people saying it. And we really need to start getting clear on that, because we hate in other people what we don't like in ourselves. Now, that's an interesting one to take on board, and it's something to sit with and ponder on, but it is quite true. When we need to judge other people, when we hate other people for what they're doing, it's usually because it's reflecting a dark part of ourselves that we are not happy with, and whether we are conscious of that or not conscious of that. So these people who are judging you, who are putting you down because you are struggling with issues around your mental health and your emotional well-being, it is because they are either scared of it, because they have been ignorant to it, they haven't experienced it, so therefore it frightens them to think about, or because they subconsciously are, judging themselves for having these kinds of thoughts and feelings. And I hope that that's making sense, because that is a huge one that we all need to get our head around, to really start getting to a point where we can stop personally taking on the judgment of other people, right? Wipe those people from your life. I'm sorry, that might sound harsh, but do not stay in the presence of people who make you feel like shit, okay? Sometimes we have to be around these people, whether it's in career or maybe there's certain family ties that means we have to see them, but it doesn't mean we can't eliminate contact. It doesn't mean, limit our contact. It doesn't mean we can't say, well, I've got this family member who we go to dinner every weekend. They put me down every time. Stop going to dinner every weekend. If they don't like it, that's not your problem to hold, okay? We need to protect ourselves as well, and we need to, as much as possible, take ourselves out of the situations where we feel judged, where we feel put down, where we feel horrible about ourselves every time we walk out of the presence of these people or these situations. Again, that is something that can take courage, and it's something that you may need help with. You might need the help and support of other good family or good friends, or you may need professional help to help you take yourself away from those circumstances. But it's really important to disengage from having that negativity around you all the time. It's no different to some of the garbage I've heard in YouTube. I don't care that people are saying the nasty stuff in one sense, because I don't have to subscribe to them. I don't have to listen. The one I was talking about that I found hugely offensive, and I'm well aware that I am in that privileged category. I'm white, I'm heterosexual, I have been privileged enough to have an education, okay? I get that I am not in the minority. It doesn't mean I wasn't offended by something that was said, okay? Now, I didn't go beyond that. I didn't stick around to hear the rest. It was like, I don't want to be part of this. So I got off. I didn't subscribe. I wasn't subscribed in the first place, but I made, big deal, okay? I get to choose who I listen to. Same with, I get to choose what I put up here. It's the same as in my Facebook group. that Facebook group is not for everyone. People are not going to like it, and that's actually a good thing, because what that means is that the people who come into my Facebook group that I run, which is around, it's not around psychology, it's more around my spiritual life coaching that I do, and just giving people info about that. But if people join, don't like it, get out of it, that is actually a good thing, because it means that I'm left with a community of people who want to be there, who are interested, okay, and who will take it seriously, and who will engage, and who will really be on board with the stuff. I don't want people a part of that Facebook world of mine who don't want to be there. So you've got to think that starting to kind of step back and look at these things in different ways, and I hope that by explaining some of this, it will start those people who feel so judged and who feel so ostracized because of their mental health concerns really start to be able to step back and see these things in a slightly different way to previously, okay? So get help if you need help. There are people out there who are supportive. Get rid of the people or limit contact with the people who are not supportive. Know that it is not a one thing is going to fix everything. It is an ongoing, daily work that needs to go into helping your mental health, and that there needs to be a beautiful balance in things. I don't think that work-life balance, all those kinds of things actually exist in the sense that we like to think of them. There's no perfect balance, but we need to find a better balance if we can't fit in the time to do these things that are going to make our mental health better. Because you can say, well, my job is too full on. I don't have the time to meditate. I don't have the time to eat well. I don't have the time to exercise. I don't have the time to journal. I don't have time to do research on, finding out this about what's going on for me. I don't have time to see a therapist because of my job. That's all good and well, but what happens when it all comes crumbling down and you can no longer go to your job, okay? So it is about finding the time in your day to have some type of balance for working on yourself. If you are suffering from any mental health concern, whether it's severe and diagnosed, whether it's lower on the scale, whether it is the daily life stress that has built up, all right, that we are all subject to, and that has huge impacts on our overall well-being and every part of our well-being. So know that you are not alone, okay, is that first point I want to go back to. If you are suffering from any mental health concern, you are not alone. I can promise you that, all right? And there are people out there who are good people. There are people out there who will support you, who will help you. Sometimes, unfortunately, we've just got to get through some of the shit before we find those people. And sometimes we have to get through some of the shit of trial and error, of strategies that do work and don't work for us. And it does take effort, and it does take time, and it takes practice, and it takes engaging in all different things. Engaging in communication with people, engaging in using your strategies, engaging in the right kind of lifestyle on a day-to-day basis. But know that you are not alone, all right? And it doesn't matter what walk of life you are from. It doesn't matter if you have had the worst upbringing or the best upbringing. It doesn't matter if you are educated or uneducated. It doesn't matter if you are poor, if you are rich, okay? It does not matter what walk of life you come from. I promise you that nobody, okay, nobody in this entire world from any walk of life is immune to developing psychological concerns emotional concerns at some point throughout their life. Most of us will, or have, or are, okay? So reach out, seek support, seek help as you need it, do the work, and know that you are loved and you are not alone. And there are people out there. You just have to find them, all right? So I'm going to leave it at that. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have any comments, let me know. Again, please know that this is very, very surface level stuff, okay? I have been very careful not to dive deep into these things because it crosses too many lines, all right? But there's plenty of platforms where you can find out the depth of it. I don't want to blur the lines here on mine though. All right. Love to you all. Know you are not alone. There are people here that love you, including myself. Get rid of the negative people and the negative situations in your life and reach out if you need. All right. Take care, everyone. Love to you all, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.